Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our Friday live question and answer class, where we take your questions regarding the American accent, pronunciation, intonation, anything that you're having challenges with that you'd like some help with. You can ask me about those things today. Just write your question in the chat and I will answer it. I'm going to talk about a topic today, give you some information and resources on that topic, as well as a quick fix that you can use right away to improve your American English. So let's get started. You can ask your questions at any time and I will stop what I'm talking about periodically and check for them, answer them. So today what I want to look at and talk about are the W and V sounds in American English. This is an accent error pattern that affects many different people. There are some different things that happen for you on these speech patterns, and we're going to talk about all of those. So if you speak Russian, an Indian language, or Indian English, Polish, Cantonese, Czech, Farsi, German, Hungarian, Indonesian, Malaysian, Mandarin, Thai, Urdu, all of those languages tend to have error patterns on the W and V sounds. And as you know, if you've been part of my classes and part of my channel, we have accent error patterns because of the sound system from our native language. And it can affect not only our pronunciation, but how we hear and notice sounds. So we'll pay attention and we'll work today on pronunciation for these sounds and also some practice for listening and hearing the difference. I also want to share some other resources with you about this topic, so I'm going to give you some links for where you can find more information on speechmodification.com, on my free practice, in my online courses, and of course on YouTube on my channel page. So let's look at W and V sounds at the start of words. The main thing to know about the W and V sounds is that we have an entirely different mouth shape for the two sounds. So the accent error patterns that are very frequent are either you may interchange the W and V, so you might be trying to say the word very, which has a V sound, and it might come out sounding more like wary. Or you might be trying to say the word web, which has a W sound, and it might sound like veb. These are just examples. This would happen across multiple words. Another pattern that I hear sometimes is that you may have a sound that's a little bit in between a W and V that you use for both. And very typically for Indian English speakers, people who speak Indian languages, this is one of the main error patterns that you have, is that your W and V are just not separate from each other. You have one sound, it sounds kind of in between the two. And this can be very confusing for your listeners, and it's one of those patterns that it's really worth paying attention to and correcting because it can really improve how well you're understood when you're speaking English. So let's look at these mouth shapes for the W and the V and talk about the main differences between them. So I'm going to show you a picture of the two shapes so you can see both at the same time. I realize that right now the way YouTube streaming works, these words may be reduced, so I'm going to read them for you, and I apologize for that. It's been since the latest update on YouTube that we've been having an issue, so I'm working on troubleshooting for that. So the W mouth posture has rounded lips. That's the main thing to know, the most important thing. And in addition, when we say a W sound, we push the sound out. So it sounds like wuh. My lips are rounded, wuh. I can't hold that sound. I push it out and it ends. Whereas the V sound, I don't have rounded lips and my lower lip and top teeth need to be touching. If they're not touching, I'm not going to get that buzzing sound that makes it a V. So let's try it. Put your top teeth and your lower lip together, turn on your voice and blow the air. For most of you, being able to make the W and V sounds, you're able to make those sounds. You might have a little more difficulty with the V sound, and you might have a challenge making that sound continue. If that's difficult for you, try the F sound first. It's the same mouth position as the V. It just doesn't have any voicing. So let's say an F sound and hold it. Okay, and now turn your voice on, try the V sound. So if you're having difficulty, if that sound isn't continuing for you, if it's sounding more like the, it's not wanting to go and continue, you're blocking off the air and you're closing your lips too much. And you might be using more of that in-between W and V sound. So relax your mouth and make sure that the air comes out. And this is something that it can be very helpful to look in a mirror to make sure you're making the correct mouth shape and that you're able to distinguish those two. You might find as you start to change and practice on these, especially with the W sound, that your mouth feels a little bit tired. That's because you have to engage the muscles to make your lips really round. If you're used to making a W that's more like a V, like a v, then your lower lip won't be coming out. And so this muscle here, your orbicularis oris, which helps you purse your lips, might get a little tired. Okay, so once you can make the w and v sounds, then you want to also make sure that you can hear the difference between those sounds. So we'll go through the next steps. When you're listening, I'm going to say 2 pairs of words, and I want you to notice. You can watch my face and listen, and you can also say these along with me. But hearing and noticing the differences between these 2 sounds. So let's try a few. Try wet, vet. Wary, very. You'll notice I'm doing the W sounds first with the rounded lips, the V sound second with no rounding. Went, vent. We, V. Win, vin. Wine, vine. So those are good for listening practice, also speaking practice. And I'm going to just break for a moment, look at the comments. We had a question, new to the channel, and where to start. So I'm guessing that your native language is Spanish, based on your name. If I'm incorrect, you can let me know in another chat. What you might like to look at is my playlist for Spanish speakers, because that's going to highlight some of the pronunciation patterns for you that are typical for Spanish speakers. In addition to that, if you go to speechmodification.com, you can put in the search box and put in Spanish, and the resources for Spanish speakers will be there. You might also like my free downloads of Accent Overview. That's going to show you which patterns that you have for Spanish. In terms of the V for Spanish, the topic we're talking about today, you have a slightly different pattern than the W and the V, so we're going to talk about that in a moment. Spanish speakers tend to confuse the V, and B, B sounds. And again, that has to do with mouth posture and whether they continue. I'll go ahead and talk about it now as long as we're addressing your question. So the V is the same. You need the teeth and lip mouth posture. The B, I use both my lips and they close together and then they release. B, B. And so in Spanish, these 2 sounds again can be the same sound or similar. You can reverse the sounds. And so practicing words that are contrasts between the B and the V, like berry, I use my lips, it's the B, and very, I use my teeth and lip, and that's the V. So I have practice exercises for that and a video for that specifically for you. If you go to the channel page and you type in the search box there and type Spanish, also related videos will come up for you. Another good place to start is in my online courses. You can get a free mini course that's going to walk you through some of the basics of the Smart American Accent Technique. That's available on speechmodification.com. Just go to the courses page and you can get that free mini course. Or you can also get a free trial of any of my online courses. So those are all great places to start. There's so many different things you can do. You can also go to my 30-day American Accent Challenge that walks you through a lot of the different patterns. And those are all live lessons that we did a few months ago. But there are training materials related to each video lesson on speechmodification.com. So feel free to also send me an email or write in the comments how you'd like me to contact you, and I'll give you some other resources that would be specific to Spanish speakers. You're so welcome. Thank you for the question and the comment. I know there's a lot of material on this channel and also on speech modification, and out there in general, there's a lot of material on American accent training, and it can be easy to get information and hard to know how to best use it. So I do recommend trying my online courses and checking in with me about what would be best for you. So let's see. In the for practicing on this pattern, the W and V sounds, thank you so much, Julian, I appreciate it. I'm going to give you a link now for where you can get practice exercises on my website. So how to go ahead and work on the W and V sounds, all the links that are related. That's a good link for you on speech modification. And not only when I was talking about the Spanish speakers' issues with the V sound, the V and the B, this is true also for if you speak Greek or Japanese, Korean, Tagalog, or Taiwanese, that B and V distinction is different. So that's another area that you can get some help on my website and in those resources that I just sent you. I would say, as always, the means of getting the change is by focusing in on repeating and practicing on the words that we say the most. So I'm going to get to my quick tip in just a minute, and that's going to be related to that topic. I also wanted to mention to you that I do have a new online course, which is 6 weeks to an American accent. And I'm really excited about this course because it really walks you through those steps. So for those of you who are beginners, who are thinking, this is overwhelming, how do I make these changes? It's going to start you at the beginning and really show you the most important patterns, the most critical elements of your speech that can help you. And you can get a free trial of that course. I'll put the link for that in the chat as well. Basically, all of these resources you can find on speechmodification.com. I do also offer one-to-one training sessions over Skype if that's something that's interesting to you. A lot of times getting started with some help and feedback that's direct, that applies to you specifically, can really help you then move on and use the information that's out there on my channel, on my website, and on other websites as well. Okay, so let's see. Let's go to our quick tip, and then I'm going to give you some more resources. So when you're working on the W and V, one good thing to know is there aren't very many words that start with the V sound or have the V sound in the middle. And so if you focus on the V's first and correcting those sounds, that's going to help you pull apart the W's and the V's. And so the words that I recommend practicing on for V, the two most frequently used words that start with V are the words very and voice. So if you can drill and practice on those words, that's going to be really helpful. And then words that the V is in the middle, never, ever, some of these other V words can be really helpful. And so first try making sure that you can say the V, and then once you can say it, you can begin to practice on these words. If you're noticing that the V and the W are hard to pull apart, one of the things that you can do is use W with vowels that are also round. So my lips are round for the W. My lips are also round if I'm saying an oo or an O vowel. You can see that very clearly. So it's easier to put the W together with that vowel. So try that with me. Try whoa. Now try woo. Your lips are already in the right position for the rounding. It's going to help you make sure that that lower lip comes out and it's not sounding like a V. On the other side, if you're having trouble with the V, because your lip wants to round and be more of a W sound, try that with the vowel E, and then your lips can't round because they're smiling for the E. So try V, V. Good. Okay, and once you have that, as I said, the W and V, let's try some repeated phrase practice where we're going to say the V sound in a word that we use frequently and then add some additional words. This helps us build a new habit, a new motor practice for how we say our V sounds. I like to use the word very because we use that one so much in speech, so try it with me. I'm going to say the word very and then add my own word. So very good, very nice, very helpful, very intelligent, very happy, etc. So what you want to do is go ahead and think of as many things you can say with very and the next word as possible. You're going to be busy thinking about what to say, and you can't think as much about your V position. That helps you build a habit and helps you begin to use it just like you would in everyday speech. So that's the quick tip for today. I also want to let you know I'm going to be teaching a free American accent training class here in Seattle, right in downtown Seattle, next Tuesday on the 18th. I hope you can join me for that. And you can see on my website a calendar of all of my local classes and events, something that you can attend. So check that out if you're here in the Seattle area. And I will be having another free Friday class next week at the same time. And so if you're not in the Seattle area, join in for that. Please feel free to ask any additional questions you might have before we wrap up. Next week, we'll be talking about a topic related to intonation. So that's more the stress and rhythm and pitch of speech. A lot of times we focus in on pronunciation, but it's very helpful to understand some elements of intonation as well. We have a question about pronunciation. How to pronounce fuel and schedule. Okay, yeah, those are both tough words. So fuel has kind of some hidden sounds in it. Again, I realize that this is going to be backwards, so I hope that it's still helpful for you, but I do like to write out pronunciation for you. So for the word fuel, we have the f sound, just like we were talking about, and then we have the U and the E, the vowels in this word, we have kind of a hidden U sound. So fuel, I'm writing it out for myself. So we have the F, the Y, the U, the and the O. Those are the IPA symbols, albeit backwards. So if you think about what those actually sound like, there's a little U word in it, few, and then you have the final L sound. So try it like this, fuel, fuel. My video on syllabic L and final L, both those videos might be helpful for you. That might be what's happening in this. And then also kind of remembering and noticing to use the U sound, few, just like the word few, fewer, fuel, fuel. Schedule, I think you may notice, you may have a more typical British pronunciation of that. They would say schedule, I'm not saying that right, schedule. We tend to say ske with a K sound, schedule. And also there's a kind of a hidden J sound in there. That DU in that word sounds like J. So one way to build that word would be to start with the end. So schedule, try just the O. That's starting with the schwa sound and then adding the L, O, O. When you can say that, add the J sound, Joel, Joel. And then add the first syllable, schedule, schedule. Hopefully that helps you. I'm going to make a note that's probably a word that other people would need help with. And I certainly have been asked about fuel many times before, and that's definitely a challenging word. So thank you for the suggestion, and look for some videos coming up in the future giving you those details that I just gave you live, so you can use that for practice. Any other questions today about pronunciation or the W and V sounds or any of the other topics we've covered? Please feel free to ask them. As I said, next week we'll be meeting again for another live class at lunchtime on Friday, talking about intonation. If you haven't already downloaded my free book, I do have a new free book that's available on my website that's also a very good starting place for both finding video resources and understanding the SMART method. It teaches you the error patterns you might have on the word the, how to correct them, how to pronounce them, and how to use what you learn from that to apply to other words in your speech to have a positive impact on your speech. Thank you. I'm glad that was helpful for you, and thank you for asking the question. If that's all the questions for today, or if you're watching this later on, not live, and you have a question, please feel free to put it in the comments, and I will answer that question. I will send you to where you can find those answers on my website and on my channel page. If you're here in Seattle, join me next week on Tuesday for my free class at WeWork, Denny Square, Denny Triangle, and that'll be Tuesday evening at 6:30. If you're not in the area, come back next week for our live class and go to my website and check out some of those online classes and resources I talked about today. Thanks so much for being here, and have a lovely weekend. Remember, if you want to sound American, you can do it. SpeechModification.com.